Okay, so now just to finish off doing a bit of modelling again, and it'd be a great thing to try this interesting shelf here, where we've got the curved shape in plan, and then it also tapers or slopes in elevation or in the z-axis. Coming back here, you can see that slope. But because it's all made from flat pieces of board, that means that all of this threaded geometry can be made simply with the extrusion tool. You might think there is an option to use the blend tool as well, which I might show you later. But in this case, I'm just going to do all with extrusions. But the key there is understanding how you can work in different planes. So firstly, I want to set up the basic shape of this shelf in my ground floor plan using, well, I'm going to use different tools to what I'd normally use, because I would normally use reference planes to set out this shape, but I can't because they're curves, and reference planes can't be curved. So we have to use a different approach, and so instead I'm going to set it out with detail lines. It's not the only way of doing it, but I'm going to show you that because it's a good chance to go over detail lines. If you haven't looked at those, you have them on the Annotate tab, and then with detail lines, I'm simply going to draw an arc. So I'm using that first arc option there. Going to have a look at this reference image again. And so yes, that comes out, and then in, yeah, so I'm just going to eyeball it. And, okay, so coming here, I'm just going to do the one that comes out, and then guessing that it's about 2 meters across. So I might just type in 2000. And then using my eyes, I'm going to bring that curve up to get the curve I want, and then click, and there we are. So I've set that curve. That should be the basis for most of this shelf layout. So I'm going to say that's also the same curve that it's using when it goes back. Can't really see it there, but I think that'll do. So I'm going to select the curve that I've just drawn. I might just move that over a little bit to give myself some more room. And then I'm going to use mirror draw axis, which has come up because I've selected the curve. I've got that option there already. And I'm going to draw an axis by clicking on one end of the arc and then click on the other end. So that's mirrored it in place, and then I can click the move button and pick it up on the end on the right and then move it over to the end on the left. And what it's going to do is give me an error, of course, because Revit, unfortunately here, where sometimes it tries to think a bit too much for you, and it's trying to help, but it's actually getting in the way because these two shapes are joined. So when I move it, it's trying to move the other one, and that's causing a problem. There's a simple trick to get around that problem, and that is to, instead of move, use copy. And you'll see what I mean if you have that issue. It's the best way of getting out of that problem. So again, click copy instead of move, and I'm going to pick it up on the end on the right, and then snap to the end on the left, and then simply come back and delete the previous one. Okay, again, sometimes, I think the developers haven't thought about those issues too much, but anyhow, we can get around it. So, so now I've got to set the depth of the shelf there, and I'll do that again continuing with these detail lines. I'm just going to select one of them just to take me back to the Modify tab, and I can get the Offset tool from there, and I'm going to type in, let's say 400 for the depth. Make sure the copy option is ticked, and then pick one of those lines, and then the other one to get my second line. In fact, that's probably too much. Looking at it again, they're not that deep, but well, 400 is a nice depth for shells, so I'm going to keep it at that, even though this one looks like it's probably about 300. So that's going to give me the basis for my my first extrusion for the shelf on the bottom. In fact, if we've got a shelf, yeah, we do have one. That's a bit unusual, but they've got a shelf that sits on the floor. It's not typical, but that's how they've done it, so I'll do that too. And I'm going to go now and start making my extrusion. Oh, so my using mod in place. So I'll save the file, and then go here to model in place, and I'll set it to casework. Click OK, and let's call it what it is, shelving. Maybe sloping. I'll move the type one day. There we are, sloping shelving. Sloping. There. Okay, so now at this level, I could have made the reference planes before this, but I don't want them to be showing up later. So I'm making the reference planes in with the extrusions, and you can do that either way. So here you've got the reference plane tool, and then I'm going to click onto the ends of these lines, also the ends of these arcs, and make sure I'm snapping to both endpoints. That's really important to get the correct angle. And I'm going to stretch the ends out a little bit further just so that it's easier to select them and work them later on. And I'm going to give them a name as I go. So I'm going to click on the name and call this shelf end left. And then I'll go to the end point of the next arc, and then again make sure I'm snapping to the end of the parallel arc on the inside, and then again stretch that both ways, and then again click on the name, and we'll call this shelf middle, and then do the same on the right hand side, again clicking on the two ends, and then bring this back, also stretch those points out, and call this shelf end right. So there we are. So then I can make the extrusion for the bottom, and so again this is the one you can see sitting on the floor there. So I'm going to create, I'm going to go to extrusion, and now I can simply trace those lines. Pick lines is your best friend when you're tracing things. So you can click on that pick lines button and then pick most of these objects. And I've got the two reference planes at the ends which I'll pick as well. And then using trim to corner, I can join all of those corners at the ends. So that's my base, and then I'm going to set the extrusion start to 0 and the extrusion end to 20. Tick to finish, and I've got my first extrusion, and actually I'm going to show you a little trick there. I'm just going to undo that last step, and before I finish it, I'm going to click on the material. I'm going to assign that before finishing the extrusion. And that just means I don't have to do it each time. So I'm just going to make a plastic material. I'll just start with finish, duplicate, call it plastic. Plastic white, and there we go. And change that. Yeah, I'll just stick with wall paint. Just make it a bit more white. And change the finish to platinum or eggshell, things like that, or pearl even, might be okay. Yeah, that's up to you. You can do whatever material you want. So yeah, so now if I finish it, next time when I go back in extrusion, it'll have that same material. So I've got my first extrusion. Then I'm going to, now I'm actually going to finish it. I'm going to go finish model, because I want to now be able to work with this in different views, and I don't have enough views to do that. So I need to finish the model just so that I can go onto the view tab and make some more section views. So I'm going to make a section now that goes as a cross section, cutting through vertically. And then I'll make another section that goes lengthways, going across, but not all the way. So just to there, so I can just see the shelf in it. That's all I need. But it's looking the wrong way, so I'm going to flip that as well, so it's looking down. So now I'm going to select my shelf, and I want to continue adding things to that family, I'm going to call it. So, so again, when I select it, instead of going to model in place, it's really important you go to edit in place to keep adding to it. And then, before I do my next shelves, the stacked shelves, I'm actually going to draw the sides. You could do it either way. You could get the slope by setting the shelves, by creating, I'll show you, all of these shelves, and then making the sides at the angle that you need to follow the slope of the shelves. And that would work. But it's been a long day, so I can't think in that way at the moment, so it's going to be easier for me to draw the sides first, I think, and that'll give me the angle, and then I'll copy the shelves to follow that. So I'm going to now go to my my section view by double-clicking on the arrowhead. And there we can see on the ground is the first shelf. And to see the lines clearly, I'm going to turn the line weights off by clicking on the thin lines button at the top, and then I can see the ends. And I'm also going to change the view to shaded so that I can see, so I've got some idea what I'm looking at. Or it helps me to see what I'm looking at anyway. So I've got the end there, that should be the corner that's closest to my view, that corner there. And I'll just make that clear if I go back to the ground floor. So, yeah, so this corner here on the left of our section view should be the corner that I want to start drawing from. So switching back to my view there, so that's this corner here. Okay, so now I'm going to go and make a new extrusion. And what you'll see is it'll tell me I need to pick a new work plane, because there's no work plane defined in this view as yet. So when I go to the list though, you can see I've got the names that I gave to those reference planes earlier, and I can simply choose shelf end left, click OK, and then start drawing from that corner point. I might just look at the reference image again. Yeah, so they've actually got it covering that. So I'm going to click on the corner and then bring it up, and that will give the angle of the side of my shelf, and I'll take it, well, they're basically full height, are they? Yeah, they're full height, so I'll take it all the way to the ceiling. There we go, so that's the angle. Yes, yeah, I think so. Yeah, they could be freestanding, yep, that was the question, yeah. No, look, sorry, no, that's wrong. No, it's a bit risky. I mean, if they're going in and out, I think they could potentially be freestanding, but, I mean, you wouldn't want to have to go to an engineer to work that out, and that's what you'd need to do the structural calculations. Okay, I think you could, because you're not going to build it in real life, so I think you'll say yes, you can do it freestanding, yeah. But if you're building it in real life, yeah, you have to experiment by building it and see what the forces were like to know. And it's not a difficult thing, even if you don't want it to go all the way to the ceiling, you could just have a rod or something that comes down from the ceiling to support it. You might need that. So, yeah, but I'll take this to the ceiling since I can. And there we are, so just dragging that by eye. It won't snap, but I'll do it close enough. In fact, I don't need to snap because you'll see in a minute. Now I'm going to draw another line, snapping to the... I'll try to pick lines and see, is it going to let me pick the ceiling? Oh, that's my light, that's why. So there's my ceiling. And there's another one. So I'll pick that line. And then, is it working? Yeah, it's put the line in, but it's over here. And you might think that's a bit strange, but it's actually natural because you've got to remember the plane I'm working in is not parallel to my view. So that's natural. But I can extend that line across just by dragging that grip. And now I'm going to use the same slope for the front and the back. Now what are those guys doing here? That's idiots. Alright, so then we should have the same slope at the back as we've got at the front. So that means I can just right click to cancel and select the line that I've drawn and click copy and pick it up on the front and then snap it to the back. But I'm going to take it a little bit past that so that it covers the back corner of the shelf. So when it comes down to the floor, it'll cover it. And to get a nice detail, I'm actually even going to select that line at the front and just using the arrow keys nudge it forward a little bit. So again, the corner of that shelf is going to sit behind that, that board, which I think is going to give a better detail. Yeah, and I think that would be what they've done in real life. Okay, so then I'll use pick lines and pick the floor, and now it's just a matter of using trim to join all of those lines together. And I've got the shape for the side. Okay, so now I'm going to select that shape and choose copy to clipboard. This is for later. You'll see why I need that in a minute. So then I'll finish it and show you in 3D how that's all looking. Maybe most view there. Oh, that one I've set up. Yeah, that's all right. That'll show it. Oh, and I've done the wrong corner. Okay, so yeah, I got the back corner when I meant to get the front corner. Not a big deal, because I can simply go back to that section view and now move it, so it should have been this corner. So, not a problem though. I can just click move and then pick it up there and bring it across to here. Still the right shape. And then back into the 3D view. Oops, sorry, not that one. This one. And there we are. So that's perfect. So we've got that first side there. And so now I need to go back to my section view and then again go to the Create tab, Extrusion, and again it asks to choose a plane each time. This time I'll choose Shelf Middle. Click OK. And I'm not going to draw that shape again. This is where I can go Paste. And it's a bit weird. You've got to choose one of these options, and none of them, to think about it, really makes sense. But they're probably the first option, Paste from Clipboard, is good enough. It's going to put the shape in the wrong place, but I'm just going to click on the ground plane there, and then I'll have to move it into position afterwards. I can just drag that across now. And I'm going to have to fine-tune the position anyway, so for now I'm just going to get that close to where I think it should be. And then I might even go to the 3D view just so that you can see where that is. Because we've got a curve there, it's hard to position it accurately just by snapping, but using the arrow keys on the keyboard now, because it's still all selected, we can nudge that left and right. And remember, the plane is defined by that reference plane that sits along that axis. And I'll click the show button so that you can see it. There's my reference plane. So when I nudge that profile left and right, it's going to follow that plane. So that should give you a clearer idea where it's moving. So it's again all based on the idea of 2D profiles, which of course need to sit on a two-dimensional plane. So that's done. So I'll again tick to finish. And that's the next one done. And then going back to the section view again, section 2. So now I might just make another extrusion again. Back on the Create tab, Extrusion, and again this time choose the plane. This time it'll be shelf end right. Okay, and then again, paste on clipboard, and just click anywhere pretty much, and nudge it into position. So here I'm holding down Shift and pressing the right mouse button to bring it back to the right. But then to fine tune the position, I'll go to my 3D view now, also 3D section, and then I can continue nudging using the arrow keys, and just by eye position that into the right place, and then I'll change the extrusion end, but maybe I'll finish it first and then I'll type in, oh no, sorry, it's actually works perfectly. That's right, I don't need to change it. There we are. So that's giving me all of the side pieces, all sloping at the same angle. Right, so just having a look at it so you can see all the interesting things that happen when you combine planes at different angles. And you'll see this is actually exactly what's happening there. That's why it does get wider and narrower in this real shelf unit that's been made. So now I'm going to finish my, oh sorry, I'm not going to finish them on, so I'm going to then go to section 3 and I'm going to draw some reference planes in this view. So back onto the Create tab, I'm going to go to Reference Plane and then draw the other planes that I need. So these are for my individual shelves. And then one for the top. So you've got to remember each of these is going to be different. So then select those and put in a height for each one, so maybe 600, and then the next one, same thing, 600, and let me try to keep them even. And then the top can be different, or maybe I'll copy that last reference plane and let's actually have a look at this. Now, I think it's an important thing for them to be even, so what I'll do then is draw a dimension from the ground floor and dimension all of those reference planes. Yeah. And I'll use the equal option there to make them all the same spacing. Yeah, that makes it easier. So, yeah, that's a great thing in Revit. I mean, you've got the divide tool and things like that in AutoCAD, but yeah, so it's when you select the dimension, you've got that equals, yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to go and name each of these planes just to make it easier. So I'm going to call it Shelf 2, Shelf 3. Now, if you want to get into Dynamo or even Format, but Dynamo will give you options for doing things like this if you want to really push it and do some more complex variations. Okay, so I've given all those planes names. And so then I'm going to go back to the ground floor plan and you can see there, I know in the other views it might have looked like those shelves were sloping sideways, but you can see quite clearly here that they're not. And that's a helpful thing. You'll see why in a minute. So I'm going to select this extrusion, go to, there's a few ways of doing this, but I'll sort of just keep it the same. So I'm going to go Edit Extrusion. Then I can select all of those lines and choose Copy to Clipboard. Okay, so I'll finish that and then go and make a new extrusion. So here, Create Extrusion, Paste, and then this time Align to Current View is going to work. So I've got a new copy of the shape, and what did I forget? Doesn't matter, I'm going to go Set, and I can choose Shelf 2. So it's drawing up at the height of the next shelf. But of course it also needs to come back. So this is where the thing that's going to stretch my brain a bit starts to happen. I'm just going to use the arrow keys, and that will move the whole thing back, and that will give us the slope. But of course it now doesn't line up with the ends. So I'm going to go, just so you can see what I'm doing, go to a 3D view, and I can see there that the end there. I might even just finish this so you can see how it's joining. That's come back, that's enough. The next one, well, we won't know until that extends. So we could use the arrows there, and I know that's tempting, but I'm going to show you probably a better way. If I go back to Edit Extrusion, I'm going to click on the Align button, right up here, and then pick on the inside face of that shelf and then choose the end, and then do the same on the other side. So again, pick on the inside face and then choose the end to bring it back in this case. Click to finish, and that looks pretty good. So then it's just a matter of repeating that process for each shelf. So I'll just repeat that again for the next one, and then I might just do the top, and that should be enough. So I'll, again, to get my first shape, as a starting point, go back to the ground floor plan, Edit Extrusion, and then select the shelf. And I know, look, I'll tell you, the cabinet makers building this would have done the same thing. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah. No, they don't. They would be perfectly vertical. Yeah. They only slope in one direction. Yeah, otherwise it'd be hard to build and it wouldn't look any better. So yeah, I'd be certain they are all perfectly vertical. They're just sloping back, yeah. But it's good to think about that, yeah. So, so I'm going to select this profile now that I'm editing the extrusion, and again, copy clipboard. And Revit is beautiful in this way. It works so much better than any of those freeform modelling programs when you're trying to make things in the way that they're built in real life. That's why I really like it so much. So, next, back to extrusion, and I'll click Set, and then choose Shelf 3, and then under Paste, Align to Current View. I can nudge it back a bit just with the arrow keys and try and get the same spacing. We're not going to try and use measurements here, so I'm just by eye trying to get a similar spacing to what I used with the last one. I'll fix it up in 3D. And I can use the Align tool here in Plan just so you can see that, and then I'll choose the reference plane or the inside of the shelf, doesn't matter. And then the line, and then same on the other side, the reference plane, and then the line. And tick to finish, and I'll have a look at that now in my 3D section view, and you can see, yep, that's pretty spot on. So you just keep repeating that process, working all the way up to the top, and that will give it to you. In fact, I don't even worry about doing the top because it's exactly the same, and it's probably easier to do them leading up to the one at the top, rather than just going straight to do the one at the top at the end. That would be a bit confusing for you to see. So I think that should do it. And yeah, it's a nice design though. I think it should look really good once it's all done. But I'll just finish it there because we're going to get on to construction. Yeah, really interesting things. I'm glad you showed it to me because yeah, I love design like that. Yeah, sure, no, thanks.